Who has the Leslie Smith underdog pick? Who was the Mexican dude and the lesbian chick? Everybody saying me, Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that out there living they dream? Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that still smoking all the green? Lesbo and the Bean. Come on, y'all, let me hear you scream. Lesbo and the Bean.
Welcome back. Episode 98. Feeling so great. It has been a rough weekend. We had no UFC, but there was a lot of other organizations that took an eye to people's fancies, and we're here to break down some of that stuff real quick. How have you been, Lesbo?
I watched some Bellator fights.
Did you see where it's fun, but completely corrupt and set up fights? There was a debuting fighter against a 2 and 4 fighter who is supposed to now take on one of the best fighters ever.
I got to see a submission, and the fastest knockout that I thought, oh, he won. Nope, he's winning. Oh, nope, he won.
That's a Fedor fight for you. And that's exactly a Fedor Emelianenko fight. So, Bellator was a prime topic of the weekend. But before we get into Bellator, I really want to highlight the beginning of the week on Friday. We had a inaugural event with Cam Soda, a free camgirl website, actually hosting MMA fights for the first time online, with the tips of the show being featured during the bout fights. So the fighters were tipped money, and the highest tipper got to have his comment read, and huge ass titties got to say great fight for $5,000 on Cam Soda Live. But there was wonderful appearances on Cam Soda.
Long joke, great finish.
Cam Soda did have featured fighters like Colby Covington versus Felony.
No.
Charles Bennett, yeah.
that ended up happening.
That was in the crowd.
Felony lost this fight.
In a decision to somebody else I don't know about.
Some dude, they get out of the ring, Colby's there, Felony seems like he comes up to him. If you guys don't know, you can look this up. Felony, who used to be Crazy Horse.
Agreed. Well, yeah. Yes,
let's
crazy.
catch you all up.
So, Charles Crazy Horse Bennett fought in Pride and UFC early on, has had a lot of felonies, has now adopted nickname Felonies. If you see the Bean over on his live chat over in Orlando, the Bean made a special appearance just for Felony himself. So you can look that up on his feed. But Felony has not been able to fight out of the country now for a year, so he's been limited in his work due to his felony convictions. He can't use his visa properly to fight in Japan, where he was making most of his money as of late. And he's not winning too many fights. Hardcore lifestyle. Joe Rogan has notorious stories about Felony being one of the craziest people he's ever met and driven with and around. And Felony likes to fight in the cage as much as out of the cage. Older fighter. Doesn't have it anymore.
So the UFC's Pride and Joy, Colby Covington, shows up octagon side.
Because there's girls in thongas, and they wearing G-strings all, like, this was a softcore porn as much as an MMA fight.
Yeah.
And Colby Covington got in a beef with Felony after he lost the fight. Ducked the punch, though. Colby totally ducked the punch.
I think he took a punch.
Really?
Yeah, I think he took one
Bennett
punch.
just doesn't have any power regardless.
Bennett...
He's been a 135er too, right?
Well, it would have been round 4 for all intents and purposes.
Good point.
And Colby's bigger, by far, but he did get one punch. And then Colby tried to go back and people held him.
Right. Mikey Brown.
Was it Mike Brown?
Yeah, it was
That's
Mike
awesome.
Brown. Mikey Brown fucking himself. I'm surprised JJ wasn't there, but...
I know we already talked about MMA.
Underdog for other time.
Underdog, put it away.
Put it away, JJ.
But I wanted to tell all the dudes out there, because I was telling you too, and you guys have probably seen it. If you have any kind of smart television or Twitter or any kind of social media, you've heard of this show called The Handmaid's Tale. Is it The Handmaid's Tale?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to tell dudes this because I saw the show and it was a red flag for me. I'm like, oh Christ, I'm going to have to sit through that show. I know somehow that show is going to enter my life, and I thought it was some period piece, like it was going to be the Salem witch trials or some bullshit.
Yeah, I
thought
agree.
it was going to be like churning butter.
I saw that one night Winona Ryder shit back in the day. I don't need to watch it again.
I was like, I don't want to.
Yep,
yeah,
the
Little
Village.
Women.
Yeah, I
Little
don't need to-
Women.
I don't need to watch that shit again.
But what I wanted to tell you is it's a dystopian future movie that's actually pretty good, and your ladies will enjoy it. So if you suggest it, you seem like a hero. Because if you're like, hey, I heard, did you want to watch that show, The Handmaid's Tale? And they'll be, oh, yeah, I've heard good things about it. I didn't think you'd ever want to watch that. Well, I'll put it on for you because you always watch UFC fights with me. So at least I can do for the weeks that UFC aren't on is watch this with you. You'll love it. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win. To go on the decline in the lose-lose situation, I've been trudging along through The Walking Dead. Finally caught up with season finale of this season. I'm surprised that they're picking it up another season. It is run its course. The only reason I even tried to catch up is just because I've been dragged along for the last 6-7 seasons.
So would you say the writers at this point are Walking Dead?
Yeah, that's what I felt like. I felt like that watching it, just like, oh, when's it over? Please shoot everybody in the dick. And let's get the fuck out of here. Like, yeah, let's be done with this.
Let's get out of here.
I'm
Get
so
on to
glad
Westworld.
I didn't even get into fucking the Fear of the Walking Dead, the prequel to this whole thing where I'm like, nope. Westworld, though.
Tonight.
That is a good one. After you get your LaTB fixed or your Monday, whatever. Whenever you get the time, get onto that Westworld bandwagon. That's probably one of the premier shows that is on point right now. There is a lot of them, unfortunately, falling through, but Netflix and many other streaming services are definitely putting fun shit out there. A lot of good movies out there.
Love it. But they need to be putting some UFC out there.
I agree, UFC. People have a gap. I mean, I even watched Cage Warriors. I was watching stuff that was just out there. So
it's almost like you have to watch, like, you know, if for every one UFC fight, you have to watch 2 Bellator fights. And for every one UFC fight, you have to watch, like, 4 Cage Warrior fights. Like, that's how to get the fix.
Yeah, I would agree because the competition is just so, like, oh, interesting. This fight again in 2 top-level fighters.
What do you think about, well, I guess we can start in the, what else in the Bellator card? So if you guys didn't catch the Bellator card, Fedor ended up in a really crazy...
The main event. So you're just going to break it right into the main event.
I don't think we have to do Bellator from the bottom to the top. I don't want to talk about
Dylan Dennis made his debut in MMA, beat a guy who was 2-4.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we don't even know the other guy's name.
Fucking won in a heel hook because he pulled guard and took no punches, and now it's calling out Ben Askren, which, give me that fight. Give me that fight.
Why would he do that to himself?
Because talking shit out of that camp apparently gets you fights, but... I am willing to put money all over Ben Askren. Release Ben Askren at UF1 or whatever, one championship. Release Ben Askren. Let him go buck wild all over Dennis. Let him get some motherfucking money. And then get Ben Askren in the UFC before he's completely done because he's up in that 36 range. Exactly. How do you feel about that?
Dylan Dennis. I won't know what to think. I think he's a guy that he's going to run out of Bellator contract. They're going to do really nice for him. He's going to move over to UFC, and it might be...
Do you think so, though? With what I saw, on the ground, he's a specialist, but we've seen that many a times. Let someone with real takedown defense get in there, and we'll see what happens. Because that striking look... I think 145, 150.
And how long will they let him have cans?
That's why you should stay at Bellator to get paid maximum profit right now because he's debuting and getting more than he ever would.
I think that's what I think he'll do. I think he'll stay at Bellator.
Yeah.
I think
his striking was rough.
I didn't get to finish it, but I was thinking he'll stay at Bellator. I think he'll get some fights in, and he's going to jump over to UFC, and they're not going to give him... The low-rung UFC guys aren't going to be cans. They're going to be trying to get that name. They're going to be trying to kill that name. So, he has a dangerous rung, especially if he's buying his own hype already without putting in the work. You can't be... The one thing about Conor McGregor that everyone forgets is Conor put in some work, everyone. He put in some real fights.
Marcus Brimage was a hell of a fight.
He beat some real people.
Max, though, that was a legit win.
Aldo...
I feel like I remember saying why that fight so back in the day because they were just such good prospects that they shouldn't have fought each other back then.
Both Nate fights were fun, like entertaining as a fan.
Yeah, I'd agree.
He was gonna fight Dos Anjos, and Dos Anjos fell out. He was gonna fight some really big people. Some of them just fell out, and all the 10 fights beforehand, I enjoyed all of them. Even Poirier. He's fought some meat guys.
It's been some fun fights. It's been some definitely fun fights along the way. Many more to come. But back onto that Bellator train real quick. With the only other fight that really mattered was Emelianenko versus Frank Mir. Frank Mir looked all sorts of juiced out to the titties. Was 300 pounds, cut down to 261. Looked more shredded than he ever has in any fights as of late. Got in there and tried to strike with Fedor Emelianenko. Guess what happened? You got knocked out, sucker, in 15 seconds. Lesbo broke it down a little bit already like, oh shit. You thought, why? Bishop himself, a fight companion, even said to Frank Mir, dude, take him right down. Don't try to strike with him and you win. That's what I thought. I put money Frank Mir submission because minus 140 favorite. Frank Mir game plan should have been go for the takedown and fucking finish this. People are saying Fedor's takedown defense is elite though. I didn't see takedown defense. I saw Frank Mir trying to strike with him.
Well, what happened, I believe, now looking back to the Iaquinta-Khabib fight, I think kind of similar happened. Because remember, right at the beginning of the fight, you thought, oh shit, Frank Mir hurt him with a punch.
Yep.
And you're like, oh shit.
Yep.
Frank Mir thought that too. And remember what, was it at the Alpaca Thesaurus says, every great wrestler hears that voice. You can strike with the best of them. You can strike with the best of them. You're a knockout artist. So
it's the truth.
I think the same thing happened for Frank. He got that one good clip, and then for some reason in his head, he's like, I can stand with this guy.
Yep. Completely agreed.
I thought I had Frank Mir in that as well.
That sets up a legend fight between a legend and Fedor Emelianenko. So Chael's getting a fight. Do you see what I did there?
Yeah. I was actually sitting on my couch when I was like, oh my gosh, Fedor's going to be fighting Chael next. And then I was in my head thinking, I wonder if I can think of my own, like the lady's delight and the man's mighty. And you know how Chael's like, I'm the lady's delight and I'm the man. He has his own Ric Flair thing
persona.
He does.
Sure.
And I was like, I wonder if I can have my own, where it's the thing I always say. Like Chael has his thing.
Persona?
No,
he's a Wrestling gangster?
No, it's not just his persona or any of that.
He has
it ties
catchphrases?
into it, but he has this one little thing he does that he says in fights that comes up in press conferences or whatever. If you look up Chael talking shit, or that is like his kind of quote that he says. Like,
right.
I'm the man's fright and the lady's delight. I'm the something. It's some little
cheesy ass shit. Yeah, that worked for him.
It's like very Ric Flair-y, but that's always how Chael is.
Yep.
He's a wrestler.
Yep. Totally.
Like a WWE wrestler persona.
So who do you got in that fight?
Chael's smarter than
He proved it.
Frank Mir.
He proved it. If anything, Chael Sonnen has proved it time and time again. He can stick to a game plan and really benefits from that, especially with no USADA, Yo Mama, and all of your brothers not testing anybody. Chael's looking better than ever.
Well, some of the fights aren't at the Indian reservations. It's very interesting where all these fights aren't. They're all drug league commission different.
Interesting. Do fill me in.
Well, some of them
UFC snob all of a sudden is just breaking down all of a sudden into a combat sports fan.
No, like the Bellator, the thing that they do interesting is that the UFC doesn't do is the UFC is always in big arenas that are usually owned by corporations. Mm-hmm. Whereas Bellator fights sometimes take place on Indian reservations. And when they're on Indian reservations, it's no holds barred. There's no commission to keep track of any of it, to drug test, to any of that stuff. It's a whole different set of rules. So I think it all depends on where it's at. But I feel like specifically this was the fight back when that I remember looking at these that was at the Indian reservation, the Frank Mir Fedor fight. So this is the one I would think, and Frank's body looked like,
Never, right?
He's not juicing anymore. So his body looks better now than when he juiced. Okay.
So, with all the reservations, with all of the legal talk, how do you feel about Fedor getting a visit by the FBI himself? MMA making all sorts of political scenes and moves because of his insider potential knowledge connections. But Fedor was visited multiple times by credible sources that they walked in and had multiple meetings with Fedor about collusion charges that they wanted to look into. How do you feel about that with my emperor himself being questioned in such a fashion?
I'm Fedor. I walk to the octagon in a Make America Great Again hat.
With the fucking signature and Kanye West on your side?
I just make America... Yeah, same. All of a sudden, You're on every paper worldwide.
Agreed.
You're a big, huge name.
Agreed.
And then, I don't even know if it's the wrong part of the country because I've also been doing a lot more research on Russia and Dagestan and like the different parts of Russia for when the UFC goes there. What's been going on.
Do you agree?
But I think, so Fedor, I don't even know if this is possible because I don't know politically what's possible. So he does this, he wears the Make America Great Again hat, and then he is, you know, whatever happens in his fight with Chael, then he easily pops over Khabib's bodyguard.
I like it. I could see a definite easy track to get there.
And then I also have this other conspiracy theory that's a little off point, but since we made America Great hat, and since I even said it, real quick. So Kanye West, he was going to run for 2020, but now he's not anymore until 2024.
Give him proper respect.
So you can keep a famous person to go up against instead of a politician. It's easier to win if Trump is coming off being the president than it is another John Smith.
But that means you think Trump's going to go another 4 after this.
That's why I think Kanye wore that hat. To support him, to get him to run the other 4, because then it keeps us in ludicrous land. And
I think Ludacris should be the
say.
vice president. You know me. I think Ludacris. Kanye Luda? Shit, that's a cabinet I could get behind. You talking like B-talk right now. You talking real world shit right now. Luda drop bows on him. I drop bows on him when you're rolling bows.
I got hoes.
Oh.
I got hoes.
Oh.
In different area codes. Dropping bows.
In an appearance, Ludacris, Kanye West in the motherfucking house. Dropping bows on all sorts of beats.
Maybe it's just because
I agree. I'm not from the South, but I have been an outcast, ride or die since Stankonia days. Even before that, Aquemini in your eye.
Speaking of Stankonia, let's get back on over to UFC.
Even to the UFC, we did have some stankiness happen with Kamaru Usman versus Ponzinibbio falling out. We touched on that a bit, but we do have a replacement for Chile. Damian Maia coming in and making it all sorts of a stanky fight, because I would dare to say that this is actually a much tougher fight for Kamaru Usman than Ponzinibbio. It is that step up in garrison and or rank, because Maya's 4th or 5th right now, and Usman's like 8th or 9th, so it's above Pons, but Usman likes to go to the ground, and that's what Maya's game is. But Usman's stand-up for me has gotten good enough to, of course, you gotta trust the LaTB us.
You got this.
You gotta trust us. And you can, I think there's even some teas that LaTB's got out there that you can look up.
You can check them out. They're not ours yet. I mean, they're like third-party.
So, either way, if you want to support us wherever way you can, just like and subscribe. How do you feel Damian Maia versus Kamaru Usman goes down?
I actually think Ponzinibbio is a tougher fight for Usman
than
Maia. I think Maia's seen, in my opinion, Colby Covington isn't up to the caliber of Ponzinibbio or Usman. And he got... It's a little sketchy to say.
He beat up Colby, though. He hit Colby.
Damian Maia got the best of Colby, yes.
Yeah.
But Colby got the Damian Maia kind of that I feel that Kevin Lee got the version of Barboza. It was too short off a brutal long fight. And so, who was it that was right beforehand that really figured that out? Was it Tyron Woodley that had Maia right beforehand?
Yep.
Figured
that was a game plan.
And it's Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley, even though he didn't lay a bunch of punches, it's still like that. To go into Colby, whatever, it's a long fight to go through. So this Maia, I do think will be better than the Colby Maia, but I think Usman's better than Covington. In stand-up, in ground.
I agree with all of that. But what I do think is the specialty is there for Maia on the ground, that if Usman at any time, like the Warley Alves loss that he has, if he shoots in, Maia will jump on a guillotine, and that's a next level guillotine. That's not a bullshit guillotine. Exactly. So that could happen again with Usman, but I do think that takedown, that same T Wood style of just let's keep it standing and I can beat you standing, is the way to beat Damian Maia. Unfortunate for Damian Maia, that's a tough ass fucking fight.
I actually feel like it's a better fight for Usman, only also in name. As much as I love Ponzinibbio, and I think he's a tough fight by far in that top echelon guy, Damian Maia is a guy that you have to beat to really get in talks. And if you do it in handed style, you want to fight T. Woods, you want to fight Dos Anjos, you want to fight these guys, Damian Maia is kind of the name you always got to get past.
Yeah, he's a gatekeeper for sure.
Look, Colby beat him, and
now
all of a
he's
sudden he's
bored
in
and
the
all
talks.
this bullshit.
Yeah, so I do think
True
for
that.
our boy Usman, it's a good fight, and I'm glad Maia stepped up. It's a hard cut for him to get to 170.
That's
a hard cut for Maia. It was not looking great.
What
last
about
time.
Usman? You're saying that he's freaking Derek Brunson down there. I'm like, that ain't Derek. Maybe not Derek. Let's go Romero. I'm like, that ain't the old huger than that. Usman's humongous. Humongous. I don't know if you heard, but there's been talks in the UFC. Finally, a little bit of love going to my bullet Chev. Talks with Montano, the only Navajo champion we have at 125 pounds in the UFC. Talks are being made. I think it's going to be ducked. I think that she's going to say, oh, I think somebody else deserves it. I think Montano's going to try to, because that's the hardest fight in the division, but obviously the number one ranked.
Montano might duck the fight. She's going to try to get out of it in the same kind of style that we're going to see happen to her exactly to a T happen what we saw happen with Jermaine Duranmi. To a T. She's going to fall out of the fight because of an injury, a surgery, and the UFC is not going to give her
Which has already happened.
8 months.
It's already happened for 6 months that she's been off her surgery.
So she's going to try to do something to duck the fight or fall out short notice, and they're going to give it to Shevchenko anyway, or just set up an immediate match with some other 125er, and the winner of that will get the belt. And, whoever at 125, it might be whoever they can find at 125 to fight Shevchenko. But Shevchenko's going to wear that belt. I don't think Montano's even ready to control that division.
I can't wait to see that, but I also am so scared when that happens because it means we have to move along. Just like here at LaTB, we are always evolving, and that is kind of a staple in our, I feel like, 10 Commandments.
Can't have a champion.
We can't,
our fave.
Exactly. That's going to be running that way. It's going to happen with everyone.
Could we retire maybe Valentina to a planet of her own forever?
A Valentina-verse?
Yeah, like a little in our new
Or
studio. If
MMA.
you watch us on Lesbo and the Bean, you see us sitting in our old studio. It's a bit of a mess, but we were working on our new studio, and we're going to have a whole bunch of new stuff going on. But yeah, maybe we can put her permanently Mod Podge. Anyways, it'll suck to lose our Val, but we don't even have to talk about that day yet.
I feel like every time we talk about her fight, and it's so much fun, it is just a step closer to that point. It is it's a time down for all good purposes and bad as well. Any last things in the MMA verse? We're not going to put it on super heavy because there's things to do. You ladies have had a full weekend with you. What other fun stuff can you do? If you haven't went to the beach already, by this weekend, you got a beach weekend. Maybe you can go start a little yoga program, start a workout, but get in line, make some dates, knock out some of those friends that you don't like to hang out with every once in a while. Go to dinner these weekends that you have free from the UFC. Don't stay in and stay the Bellator. I didn't even want to watch the Bellator, honestly, but we were home last night before that, and I was passing out watching me some Frank Mir get knocked out by Fedor, the FBI himself.
There's no other stories to go out on here. Yeah, Sage Northcutt.
There's been multiple other fights that have been confirmed.
Sage Northcutt does not need to get bigger. That's what I just read. Sage Northcutt continues to get bigger. That's the last thing he needs to do.
He looked a little round at 190, 200 the last photos I was seeing of him.
Seriously considering wrestling for once.
That's all speculation.
Yeah, he's until he gets hit one time in the first round and then right back to it.
But for another week of fights, what would you say next weekend if you've already done the beach or went to the movies, did the kayaking? There's always a staple of movies, but that's getting a little expensive these days.
I feel like I was pretty good with you put on The Handmaid's Tale.
That is a good call. Get some popcorn on or whatever veggie snacks you might do.
It is getting to be summertime. Oh, Dakishvili, his appeal got denied.
We saw that coming. We saw that coming, though. He was
watch
out.
that sometimes, and I heard his whole explanation of I won first 2 rounds handedly, and I had that whole round in the bag. I figured he could hold me as long as I stayed awake for 45 seconds. I was going to be fine. And it's a little bit of a bummer.
I think that is not as controversial as Kiesa Lee.
Agreed.
I think Dakishvili was more out. Like, he was more limp noodle than other guys for me.
Aldo versus Stevens.
Did that get rebooked? What was talking
for
about
July
that?
28th, so it's a fight night. It's going to be the headliner of a fight night.
I like that for a fight night.
love
Jeremy
that.
Stevens versus Emerson in Orlando was a fun one. That was the last time
I think we could have
Stevens
a
came
good
out.
underdog in Stevens in that.
I don't even think he's an underdog though.
I think he will be.
That's gonna be a coin flip if I ever seen one. If I could see, I would see a
Future
coin flip.
flip.
We got Stevens gonna be even money pretty much against Aldo, and it's because Aldo has looked on USADA. USADA's not been kind to that middle-aged man.
And Thompson Till coming up. I don't know if Till's overrated or not. I keep going back.
I think
and forth
we've
on
both been concise about Till being a good play in certain areas, but Wonder Boy is the next level, and it's a big jump. Dalby, he got a decision over Dalby barely. Always never forget. Decision with Dalby. Throwing that out there. Cerrone came off of a 2-month KO.
Cerrone has a
broken
fight book, doesn't he?
I think I did see Cerrone actually headlining a fight
I don't
against
remember.
somebody
I'll put
else
it
at
up.
the top of my head.
I'll put a picture of it up, so I guess that's it. I guess it'll just be a short show this week. If you guys can think of anything to send us, I'm sure the UFC, there will be happening. But if you guys have any questions or want us to break down any fake fights or any of that, feel free to send us an email at lesboandthebean@gmail.com. For all things Lesbo and the Bean, you can go to lesboandthebean.com and make sure you're following us on Twitter at Lesbo and the Bean. Thanks for listening.
Let's go the beat!